Why did the Titanic, built in 200 days, sink in just 2 hours? April 10, 1912. The day the largest, most luxurious ship the world had ever seen, the Titanic, was ready to embark on its maiden voyage. The Atlantic Ocean lay calm, with no sign of storms on the horizon. On board were 1,500 passengers, while millions gathered at the dock to witness the launch of this monumental vessel. None of the passengers, spectators, or even the crew knew the fate that awaited the Titanic's 6 fatal flaws had been made in its construction. These errors would turn the Titanic's first voyage into its last. Welcome to our first video. Today we'll uncover the 6 deadly mistakes that doomed the Titanic, errors that, if avoided, could have made this ship famous for its success, not its tragic end. Despite the 40 years of experience Captain Edward Smith had, and despite the vast expertise of White Star Line, which operated over 107 ships, these flaws went unnoticed. Even Harland and Wolff, the shipbuilders who had already manufactured over 500 vessels, failed to detect them. The construction of the Titanic began in 1907, taking 3 years and 2,000 workers to complete. The ship was built, but the testing phase was still to come. Confidence in the Titanic soared when it passed its initial test run. News outlets worldwide declared it the unsinkable Titanic. On April 10, 1912, Titanic began its first journey. Departing from Southampton, England, bound for New York City. The ticket prices were staggering. $30 for economy, $150 for first class, equal to $340,000 in today's currency. The marketing hype ensured every ticket was sold. At precisely noon, the Titanic set sail, but soon the cracks began to show. Captain Smith had strict orders from the owners: reach New York in 7 days, no later than April 17. The pressure to meet this deadline led to the first fatal error: excessive speed. From the start, the ship traveled dangerously fast. Had they not been under such time constraints, perhaps disaster could have been avoided. 3 days passed at sea. On the evening of April 14, 1912, the ocean was eerily silent, and fog engulfed the ship, reducing visibility. That night, a ship ahead of the Titanic warned of icebergs 6 times via wireless communications, but those critical warnings were missed. The Titanic crew's negligence, distracted by catering to the first-class passengers, allowed these vital messages to slip through the cracks. This was the second fatal mistake. Speeding through the cold Atlantic, the Titanic neared the icebergs. Despite the warnings, the lookouts had no binoculars. Yes, you heard that right. The lookouts, the ship's eyes, were without binoculars, unable to spot danger ahead. This was the third mistake. It was only when the iceberg loomed directly ahead, as large as a football field, that the alarm was raised. Captain Smith ordered the engines to stop and attempted to steer away, but it was too late. The iceberg struck the Titanic's side. Yet the Titanic still had a chance to survive if only the ship's structure had been stronger. The fourth error lay in the ship's construction. Experts believed that the rivets holding the ship's steel plates together were made of cast iron, not steel, making them weaker. Under the immense pressure, they gave way. The iceberg's impact opened the ship's side, and water began flooding in. Now the passengers were alerted, including Joseph Bruce Ismay, the owner of the Titanic. The ship was designed to survive flooding in 3 compartments, but the water reached the 4th. The Titanic was now doomed. His focus shifted to saving lives. But there was a 5th mistake. The Titanic had room for 32 lifeboats, but only 20 were on board. 1,500 passengers and only 20 lifeboats. It was a disaster waiting to happen. Panic set in as passengers scrambled for the limited lifeboats. At 12:45 a.m., the first lifeboat was lowered into the sea, but it was only half full, prioritizing first-class passengers. This was the 6th error, not utilizing the lifeboats fully, leading to unnecessary loss of life. As the Titanic continued its descent, the lights flickered and went out at 2:18 a.m., followed by the ship splitting in half. In just 2 hours and 40 minutes, the Titanic was gone. 1,500 souls perished in the icy waters of the Atlantic, where temperatures were a lethal 2°C. It's said that even more lives were lost than recorded, as many passengers boarded without tickets, taking advantage of their connections with the crew. In the end, most survivors were women and children. Captain Smith, who had spent the entire night trying to save others, was the last man to jump from the sinking ship. Hope you enjoyed this tragic tale of the Titanic. Stay tuned for the next thrilling video.